Hello everyone, welcome back to the new video. In this video, we will talk about the Python OOPS concept. So when we talk about OOPS concepts, we generally hear about 2-3 terms like classes, objects, variables. So in this video, we will build our foundation around those concepts, understand them, and then later on in the next couple of videos, we will deep dive into the more Python concepts with the help of examples and understand more about it. So what are classes? So classes act as a blueprint or a template of something. Based on that we create the objects. So suppose there's an housing society in which we say that there are most of the houses are of same type or same configuration. So they are built up after some plan. So first the plan is built and after those houses are built. So that plan is like a class, and in that plan different properties and attributes of the class or the houses are defined. For example, it's going to be a 2-floor house, there are going to be 3 bedrooms, 2 washrooms and all. So those everything is defined in a plan, and then that houses are built. So you can say that plan is a class and the houses or the things are built are act as an object. Other example is going to be like car manufacturing. In that first they have a plan, or you can say a design, a configuration of it, and then based on that configuration they make the cars. So those cars are an object of the class car here. Okay, so suppose we make a plan or a configuration and after that we don't make objects out of it or we don't build something on it, then the point of making the class is worthless. So for class to use there has to be an object. So you can say object is a physical existence of a class or an instance of a class. Based on that we can use the attributes and properties of a class. So let's see how to define a class. So in Python there's a keyword called class. After that we just have to use the class name. Suppose I am making a class animal, and after semicolon. So this is the way to define a class in Python, and the first letter of the class name has to be capital because that's a standardized form of using it. It's an industry norm. So this is the way of defining a class. So I already said that in the class there are different attributes, properties we define for that. So there are variables that we use to define the properties of a class. So suppose there's a class house. For that what can be the different variables or variables, like it's a 2-floor house, like floor is going to be 2, 3 bedrooms, 2 you can say kitchens and all. So those are going to be the properties of the class that we define using variables. And to define the actions, the things that can be done by the object at that particular class are called object, not the object, sorry, it's called methods. For example, like there's a toy car, it can go in front, it can go back, it can take left turn, right turn, it can jump. So those are the different actions that that particular toy car can do. So those are called the methods that it can do. Okay, so we already saw how to define a class. So I said that there are different variables and methods in a class. So let's see what kind of variables we have. So we have like 3 different kind of variables. First one is instance variable. Instance variable is object level variable. Second one is static variable. Static variable is class level variable. And third one is local variable. Local variable is method level variable. So in this video we will just go through, like, listen to these terms, and in the later on videos we will see the examples and how to use these different variables. And like variables, there are like 3 different kind of methods that we can define in a class. First is like instance method, second is static method, and third is class method. Like the variables, again we will learn about these different methods in future. Okay, so we saw how to define a class, so now we have to see how to define an object or get an object. To get an object, what we have to do is, like, there is a class animal already I defined above, so I have to create an object of that class. To create an object of that class, what I will do is I will use the class name and then break it. So this way I created an object, but to get an object I have to use a reference variable. So reference variable is new term that I just introduced, so let's learn what's the reference variable. So suppose there's a, let me give you the example. So suppose there's a toy car. In toy car we have to use it somewhere. So to use it, or to ask our toy car to take a left turn, right turn, or to move forward, we have to use a remote control. So that remote control will help us to do the actions or perform some tasks on that toy car. So that remote control is a reference variable that we are going to use on our object. Object here is toy car. So same way we have to use here a reference variable. Let's say I say A, that I will use on this object animal that I created here to help me to use the properties, or you can say the actions that I will define in the class. Okay, so this way I created an object, and to use that object there has to be a variable called reference variable, and that reference variable here is A. Okay, so let's make a sample class here. Suppose there is a class called student. In this self dot name is like Jimmy, self dot age is like 22, self dot roll number is like 101. So I just introduce couple more new terms here, like def underscore underscore in itself. So please forget about it right now, like we will understand them in detail in future, like what is underscore underscore init underscore underscore, what is self. So just think of it like it's just a normal method here. So I guess all of you already know in Python def is used to define a method. So this is the one method I just defined here. So let's me create a one more method, like def call underscore name. So I will do like print my name is self dot name, and print my roll number is self dot roll number. So I just created a student class here in which I defined two methods. One is this special looking method called def underscore underscore anything self, and this call name method. Okay, let me execute this class. What happened? Oops. Okay, I just created this class here, and now I will create the object of this class. The object of this class. For object creation I will use the class name and then the brackets after this. To use this object I have to create a reference variable. Let me create a reference variable here. Okay, so now to access all the variables and methods of this particular class I will use this reference variable s. Okay, so I want to know what's the name of the particular student, so I will use the reference variable s and I will call the name. It will give me the name, so the name of that particular student or the object is Jimmy. The same way I can use it to call it s dot age, it's 22, and s dot roll number. So this way I got the, you can say the properties of that particular student. What are the properties of that particular student? That particular student name is Jimmy, that student is 22-year-old, and the roll number of the student is 101. So this way I access the properties of that student. But that student can perform the functions also, like he can eat, he can study, he can do like lot of other stuff. But here I just defined one function for that student is like call name. So when I will ask that student to call his name, he will say his name, but he is smart, so he will tell his roll number also. So okay, how can I call this method? I can use like s dot call name and execute it like this. So this is, you can say, an action or a method that that particular student can do. So when I call that method, that student tell me like my name is Jimmy and my roll number is 101. So this way we can ask the methods, we can call the methods from a particular class. Now you must be wondering like, I hear there's a self, but whenever I am calling, like when I call this method, there is no self here. So in Python, self is like self calling thing. So whenever there is a self, we don't have to call it explicitly. Python virtual machine call it itself. So we don't have to worry about self here, but we will understand about self in detail in the future videos. So S is a student object I created. Okay, so now as I said, there can be multiple objects that we can create from a class. For example, the housing society, there can be multiple housing. Okay, I can create one more object. Let me create S1 is equal to student here. So this is one more student. Okay, I created. So on that I can again call it S1 dot roll number. Here it's like 101. So it's like, it's just for an example, but don't take it like you can say, it's just for the understanding purpose. So another student I call, and for that another student I can access the roll number also here. So it's 101. So just for the explanation purpose I show it like this, but here it serves no purpose to us. Okay, so and when we use underscore init, so whenever, as soon as we create the object, it calls itself. We don't have to call it explicitly. So to understand this, I can show you like when I will call myself. Okay, so as soon as I created the S student object, this first one, I will do print of S. It will, why it's not doing it? First I have to call this thing, and then it's see, it called itself automatically. I don't have to call it from my side. So as soon as we create the object, this init method call itself. Okay, so I created this also. If I call this, here again it will call itself. So you can see like from a single class I can create multiple objects. So no matter if I create S2 again for the student object, that it will call itself again. So I will call myself. So this is, so like we don't have to call init from our own side. So whenever we are creating an object, this init method call itself. Yeah, so this example is like just not a full-fledged example. So because having the same name, age and roll number for every student doesn't make any sense. So it's just an example that I created to understand the syntax and what different things mean. So if I, so to understand it again, so as I told you, like I created two objects, S and S1. So you might be thinking that everything is same, so are they same or not? So let's see, print ID of S and print ID of S1. Oops, it's not, okay, it's not marked down. see, the location or the address of both the objects is different, so they are different, they are totally different objects we just created from a same class called student. Just because the example, the way I created it, looks like they are, everything is same, but it's not same, their address is different. So it's just an example to get familiar with the syntax. Okay, so I guess in this video I will just keep it until here, and in the next video we will understand more about this self and init. So let me reiterate, like, what's class access in blueprint, and based on that blueprint whatever we make, it's an object. So object is like physical existence of that class. In class we can use three different kind of variables: instance variable, static variable, local variable, that we will learn more about in future. And same way there are three different kind of methods that we can define inside a class: instance method, static method, class method. And there's a reference variable. What is reference variable? We use reference variable to access the object, or we use reference variable to call the different methods and properties of a particular class. So for a class we can make multiple objects, like I showed the example here, S and S1, and all objects are going to be the different, you can say, the address. So how we can call the method of a class? So we can just use the referral name, reference variable name S, and then the object name, call name, like that I have it here, call name, to call that method. So yeah, this is the way, this is the like the basic syntax of a classes. And I guess in this video we understand what's class, object, and reference variable. In the next video I will go over the self init. So this method has a special name, it's called constructor. So it's like whenever we create object, constructor call itself, and the example of it I just showed it here. As soon as the object is created, it call itself, like I will call myself, I'm a boss. So yeah, this method name has a special name called constructor. Okay guys, I will see you in the next video, and we will learn about the self. Thank you, have a nice day, bye.